In this world, healers have been recognized for their exceptional abilities and are often given positions of power as a result. There is even a royal academy dedicated to training the nation's best healers. As a healer, you are usually going to be classed as first, second, or third rate. But then we have Zenas, who doesn't even have a license to use healing magic. However, it hasn't stopped him from helping people whenever he can. So he opened a small office on the edge of the kingdom so he can treat the people who need his help. Once he is done healing the man who came to his office, the man thanks him. But he doesn't have much to pay Zenas with, so he offers him all the money in his pocket. Zenas is fine with it because he is not doing this for personal profit, and after the man leaves, his assistant, Lily, comes in to remind him that he got a house call. Zenas says he is going to head out immediately, so Lily tells him she will have dinner waiting when he gets back. A few hours later, Zenas is done with his house call and is on his way back home. But while he is walking down the street, he notices a wolf girl who looks like she is in terrible pain. Just then, a noble catches up with the girl and starts yelling at her. He asks where she has been, so the girl tries to explain that her stomach was hurting really badly, so she tried going to the hospital, but they wouldn't treat her because she didn't have any money. The noble looks at her like she's stupid and a stomach ache isn't enough to warrant a trip to the hospital, especially not for a slave like her with no health insurance. He then drags her off and says she should get back to work immediately. The noble takes the cemetery and throws her to the ground, causing her to smash her head on a tombstone. He really must not care about her health because an injury like that is enough to kill a person. Plus, after the girl rolls over on the ground in pain, some scary black energy went into her, so I'd be very concerned. However, the noble has the observational skills of a blind man, so he thinks the girl is faking it and tells her to get back on her feet immediately. She obviously can't do that because of the severe pain. The noble walks over to her body and threatens to put her in one of these graves if she doesn't listen to him, but she can barely move, so he proceeds to kick her across the floor. The noble is sick of waiting around for her, so he says she should hurry up and start looking around the cemetery for anything of value. He then starts walking away, and maybe it's the severe pain or the fact that she got possessed, but the girl snaps and slashes the noble across the stomach. The noble is in disbelief at first because he has never been injured so badly before. He tries reasoning with the wolf girl, but then he remembers how he was kicking her a second ago, and she looks like she's out for blood, so there's no point in trying to negotiate. He starts running away at the speed of a light jog because that's as fast as he can go, and the noble definitely would have died here. But by some miracle, Zenas happened to be in the area, so he runs to him for help. He tells Zenas that his slave went crazy and is trying to kill him, but Zenas saw the way he treated her back on that street, so he is pretty sure that the noble deserved it. The wolf girl eventually catches up with the noble, so he begs Zenas to save him. Zenas takes one look at her, and he can clearly see the dark energy around her, so he asks the noble what he was doing when the girl went out of control. The noble doesn't want to admit that he was trying to get her to rob some graves for him, so he just says he was farming for loot. That's definitely illegal, but he tries to change the topic and reminds Zenas that he is severely injured, so he needs to get to a hospital right away. He even offers to pay Zenas if he can save him from the girl, but Zenas doesn't care about money. However, he also took an oath to save people's lives, so when the girl charges at the noble, Zenas pulls him out of the way in time. The girl then throws a bunch of rocks at Zenas, so he skillfully evades them without much effort. If he is skilled enough to do that, the noble thinks he should be able to kill the girl, but Zenas firmly refuses because he has a strict no-kill rule. The noble tells him to stop spouting that Dark Knight nonsense, because if Zenas doesn't kill that girl right now, then she might end up killing the noble. But Zenas still refuses because as a healer, his goal is to save as many people as possible, and immediately after saying this, he proceeds to punch straight through a rock that the girl threw at him. And I'm pretty sure healers can't normally do that. Zenas can tell that the girl is incredibly fast, in fact she is way faster than a demi-human should be, so he knows something is wrong. He doesn't want to hurt her too badly, so as the girl tries to slash him, he pulls up a shield, and as soon as she makes contact, she gets flung backwards into a nearby building. Incidentally, this also causes a piece of the building to collapse right next to the noble, and Zenas is fast, so he totally could have saved the noble, but he simply chose not to. Now that everything has calmed down, Zenas walks over to the girl's body, and her leg is broken from the fall, so she is struggling to get away. She is still feral, so Zenas lets her bite onto his arm to keep her in one place. He has figured out that she is possessed, so he puts his hand on her head and starts healing her to get the spirit out. He is successful, but he is still a little curious as to what she could possibly have been doing to make a spirit possess her. In any case, he still needs to take care of the ghost, so he uses his powers to exorcise it. He then turns back to the girl, and now that she is back to normal, he heals her broken leg so she can walk again. The noble sees this as he pulls himself out from under the rubble, and he is amazed that Zenas is powerful enough to heal a broken leg instantly. He is still badly hurt, so he pleads with Zenas to save him, but Zenas says he actually just clocked out for the day, so the noble will have to wait until tomorrow to get healed. The noble knows he is going to bleed out in a couple of hours, so he begs Zenas to heal him right now. Zenas eventually agrees, but he says it's going to cost him extra. The noble doesn't care about the price, so he gives Zenas all the money he has. This is well above the current market rate for healing, so he assures Zenas should be satisfied, but to his surprise, Zenas says this is nowhere near enough. He doesn't usually care about payment, but considering how scummy the noble was acting earlier, Zenas is feeling very capitalistic right now. The noble threatens to report Zenas for extortion, but that wouldn't bother him since he doesn't have a license in the first place. He is technically an illegal healer, but the noble probably knows all about illegal stuff considering the fact that he has been grave robbing. Anyway, Zenas is willing to make a deal, so he tells the noble that he is willing to accept alternative payment, so in addition to the gold, he wants to take the noble's slave. The noble never cared about the girl anyway, so he agrees to Zenas' terms, and as soon as Zenas heals him, he hands over the girl's slave contract. The noble then walks off in a fit of rage, so Zenas sits on the floor next to the girl and waits for her to wake up. When she finally regains consciousness, she is surprised to see a man sitting next to her, and asks him who he is. Zenas tells her his name, and explains that he just bought her, so from now on she is his slave. With that out of the way, he tells Till to take off her clothes immediately. Till gets flustered and asks him if he's serious, but Zenas isn't joking. He says he paid a lot for Till, so he needs to make sure his property is in good condition. Till eventually does as he says since she can't disobey her master, and once Zenas gets a good look at her body, he can immediately tell what's wrong. He noticed that she was in pain earlier, and that's because she has a gallstone blocking her bile duct. It should be easy enough for him to fix, so he reaches for her stomach and uses magic to perform the operation. In an instant, the gallstone is removed, and Till no longer feels any pain, so she asks Zenas what he did. Zenas explains that all he did was open up her stomach, extract the gallstone, and close her back up in a fraction of a second. A totally normal procedure. Zenas doesn't think there's anything special about it, but Till knows for a fact that no other healer could do something like that. She thanks Zenas for healing her, but he tells her a thank you isn't enough. He invested a lot into her, so he is going to need Till to work to pay him back. At first, Till thinks Zenas is going to ask her to service him with her body, but Zenas just wants her to give him directions to a particular plant he has been looking for. Till thinks that's a strange request, but she leads him to a bush with the leaves that he is looking for. She asks him if this is really all he wants from her because she is willing to do a lot more for him, but Zenas says this is enough. He always demands a fair price for the work he does for others, and her helping him find these leaves is all he needed from her, so all debts have been settled. He then tears up Till's slave contract and tells her she can do whatever she wants with her life now. Till doesn't really know what to do with herself now that she's not a slave anymore, but she is free to try all sorts of new things now, and it's all thanks to Zenas. She asks if she can come see him again, and Zenas says that if she is ever hurt, he will be glad to heal her, but not for free of course. Meanwhile, back at home, while Zenas was out working, Lily began preparing dinner. The food smelled so good that the resident ghost, Camilla, had to come down to see what was cooking. Lily notices her, and Camilla says she is excited to taste Lily's cooking, but the food won't be ready for a while, so she is going to have to wait in her room. Just then, a girl named Zofia came in looking for Zenas, but Lily tells her that he is out on a house call, so he's not here right now. Zofia was hoping to get Zenas all to herself by coming early today, but since he's not here, she decides to wait until he gets back. It looks like Zofia wasn't the only one who wanted to see Zenas today, because a few moments later, Linga shows up looking for him as well. Lily informs her that Zenas isn't here, so Linga says she'll wait, but she's surprised to see that Zofia is already here. She was hoping to lick Zenas all over while he inspected her body, but now that plan is ruined. A few moments later, an orc girl named Loie bursts through the door, so Lily goes to meet her and says she can join them inside, but only after she fixes the front door she broke. Loie likes Zenas too, but she actually came because she could smell Lily's cooking a mile away, and she really wanted to try it. Eventually, Lily is done cooking, so she was off to finish a couple of her chores and leaves the others in the kitchen. The second that Lily leaves the kitchen, the demi-human girls can no longer resist the smell of Lily's food, so they all go to give it a taste test, but they're definitely smart enough to know not to empty out the entire pot. Never mind, that pot looks pretty empty now. The three are starting to realize how badly they've messed up, because Lily is definitely going to be mad once she gets back. A few moments later, Lily returns and after seeing what has happened, she smiles at the girls and demands that they explain themselves. Later that night, Zenas finally returns home and Lily apologizes because dinner isn't ready like she had promised. There was a bit of a problem with the food, but she already found the solution. She sent the girls out to gather ingredients for her to make a new dish, and by the time they returned, they brought way more ingredients than she expected, so Lily will be able to make a feast tonight. But before that, she knows Zenas must have been working hard all day, so she says she'll prepare a cup of tea for him so he can relax. Zenas was once part of a world-class adventurer party, but one day, the party leader, Aston, throws a gold coin at him to remind him that he is poor and says he is kicking Zenas out of the party. He tells Zenas he is a worthless waste of space, and the party is better off without him, but Zenas knows for a fact that he is the only thing keeping this party together. However, Aston refuses to believe that. He only recruited Zenas to use him as a human shield since no one would care if he got killed in battle. But now that their party has become strong, Zenas tries to tell him that the only reason they are strong is because he is there to heal them every time Aston does something stupid, but Aston tells him his shady, self-taught healing skills are worthless, and any other healer could do a better job than him. Meanwhile, out in an alley, two slave traders are trying to hold an elf girl down so they can tie her up to be sold later. The woman warns her partner to be careful not to hurt Lily since elves are really rare, and they can get more money if she is in good condition. The man already has her pinned to the ground, but Lily refuses to go down without a fight, so if she kicks him in the balls and while he is wincing in pain, she starts running away. She probably could have escaped too, but unfortunately, the man had a bow, so he shoots her in the ankle. Lily falls to the ground, and she can't run away anymore, so the man catches up to her. He tries to hold her down again, but Lily bites his hand with the force of 1,000 chihuahuas, so the man has to stab her to get free. Zenas happens to be walking through that alley, and he finds Lily on the floor, bleeding out, and asks the two if they are the ones who did this to her. They tell them to freak off because slavery is perfectly legal in this country, and they own Lily, so they can do what they want with her. Zenas knows they are right, so he legally can't do anything to help Lily, but then he comes up with an idea and tells them he wants to buy Lily. He offers them the gold coins he got from Aston, and normally they'd refuse since elf slaves are worth way more than one gold coin, but since she's already bleeding out on the floor, they decide to take the money and leave. Once they are gone, Zenas walks over to Lily to see if she's still alive. Lily has already accepted her fate and is telling Zenas to just leave her here, but he tells her she's not going to die. Lily looks down at her wound, and she is surprised to see that Zenas has already healed her completely. She thanks him for his help and apologizes for the gold coins he spent to buy her, but Zenas didn't really want to keep it anyway since it reminded him of Aston. He asks Lily if she has a home to go to, but with her being a slave and all, it's pretty safe to assume she's broke and homeless. She's also very hungry, so Zenas offers to get her some food and clothes before they do anything else. Zenas ends up taking her to a diner nearby and buys her a new set of clothes along the way. Lily is happily eating the food Zenas bought for her, but she's a little confused since he didn't buy any food for himself. Zenas tells her he isn't hungry, but in reality, he's just really broke. He spent the last of his money on clothes and food for Lily, and since he got kicked out from Golden Phoenix, he's probably going to have to get a new job soon so he doesn't starve. Just then, a man stumbles into the diner, and it looks like his arm is hurt. He got into some trouble and he managed to make it out alive, but he's definitely not okay. Zenas takes a look at him from across the room and from the hole in his arm and the mild burn marks. He deduces that the man must have been shot by a magic gun. It's not that big of a deal since the guy is a lizard person, so the wound should be able to naturally heal within a few days, but then again, the wound is pretty deep so it'd be better to take care of it right now. Zenas stretches his hand out to cast heal on the man, and within a few seconds the hole in his arm seals back up. The man is surprised that his arm is suddenly back to normal, so he asks Zenas who he is, and before he can even respond, Lily declares that Zenas is a legendary healer. The man has never heard of him before, but he is really grateful for Zenas' help, so he hands him a couple of coins and promises to spread the word about him. Zenas was a little confused as to why the guy gave him money at first, but then he realized that healers usually get paid for healing people. That gives him an idea, so he decides to open a clinic and become a professional healer, but since he's from the slums, it'll be hard for him to get an official healing license. Plus, running a alleged business would mean he has to pay taxes, and in the words of Virgil, tax evasion isn't a crime, it's an obligation. That's why Zenas is going to become an underground healer. Lily doesn't really understand what he's talking about, but if Zenas is going to open a clinic, then she wants to help him. Zenas thinks about it for a second, and since opening a clinic without a license would be illegal, he's not sure if it's right to drag an innocent kid into this. But Lily reminds him that he purchased her a few minutes ago, and that makes him her master, so it is her duty to follow him no matter how many laws he breaks. Zenas didn't really intend to become her master though, he just wanted to help her out. Lily then points out that she has nowhere to go, so if he doesn't take her with him, then it'll be his fault if she ends up as a slave again. Zenas eventually relents and agrees to let Lily come with him, so she swears that she will serve Zenas with every inch of her body, but he asks her to please not make this weird. Anyway, if Zenas is going to open a clinic, he's going to need to solve his current homelessness issue, so he takes Lily to an abandoned section of the city to look for a place to stay. Lily asks Zenas why he wants to live here, so he explains that he needs to stay hidden, so the Royal Association doesn't find out about his illegal clinic. Plus, of how spooky this place is, the property values are the perfect price for his empty wallet is free. Lily can't deny that, but she is still worried because she knows that scary monsters tend to live in places like this. The two of them eventually find a house that is still intact, so Zenas thinks he just hit the jackpot. But as soon as Lily sees the place, she is terrified because this looks like a textbook haunted house. If they get unlucky, they might even run into a wraith. Zenas has no idea what a wraith is, so Lily explains that wraiths are terrifying undead monsters who can turn people into ghosts with a single touch. They head inside, but it's pretty dark, so Lily offers to use her magic to provide some light. Zenas is surprised that Lily can use magic, but she can only use basic spells, so she doesn't think it's very impressive. With the room lit up, they can now see everything clearly, and it's just as bad as Lily thought it would be, but Zenas is still pretty optimistic. This place still has a good roof and the support pillars are sturdy, so it's perfect for their clinic. However, they run into one major problem. There's actually a wraith here, and she says she's going to suck Zenas dry of his life force. Lily is freaking out, but Zenas is just disappointed that the house was already occupied. Camilla charges at Zenas, but he easily knocks her back with a heal spell and destroys both of her arms. He isn't intimidated by Camilla at all because back when he was in Golden Phoenix, Aston would often send him into the labyrinth alone whenever he was in a bad mood, and Zenas would constantly run into wraiths down there, so he has defeated at least 100 of them. It turns out that healing magic is pretty effective against undead monsters. Back on topic, he apologizes to Camilla for barging into her home like this, but there aren't any other options around here, so he asks if she's okay with him moving in. Camilla feels insulted that Zenas would even suggest moving in with her, the Queen of Wraiths, so she summons a ton of her ghost servants to get rid of him. However, Zenas casually uses a high heal spell to wipe all of them out. Camilla is stunned by the power Zenas possesses, and she's starting to worry that he might exorcise her, but he really doesn't want to fight Camilla. He knows this rude to move in like this, but he really needs a place to stay, so he asks her if she's willing to give him and Lily at least one bedroom and a place for them to treat future patients. Camilla knows she can't beat Zenas, so she tells him he can have the first floor, but she's keeping the second floor for herself. Zenas thinks that worked out pretty well, but Lily doesn't know if she should be more scared of Camilla or Zenas. By the next morning, Lily is really bored since there aren't any patients around, so she asks Zenas if she should go outside to do a little advertising, but Zenas doesn't think that's a good idea since the Royal Hospital might find out about this place. Besides, it shouldn't take too long for them to get their first customer, and sure enough, a few minutes later someone walks in. Lily stands up to go greet their first customer, surprised to see that it's the guy Zenas healed yesterday. Zenas have been expecting him to show up sooner or later since law-abiding citizens don't end up getting shot by magic bullets, and guys like him probably don't want to go to normal hospitals for obvious reasons. The man introduces himself as Zond and says he needs Zenas to take a look at his sister. Zenas says he will do what he can, so Zofia shows him her minor flesh wound. Zofia says her arm has been acting funny since yesterday, and after taking one look at the wound, Zenas deduces that Zofia was shot by some sort of magic with a poison attribute. Zofia asks him if there is anything he can do about it, but since Zofia spent all night with it like that, all her arm tissue is pretty much dead. He tells her it is better to just chop the whole arm off to avoid spreading the poison. Zofia is disappointed to hear that she has to lose an arm, but it is what it is, so she asks Zenas how much it will cost for Zenas to amputate it. He tells her she will have to pay 1,000,000 yen, and as soon as he says that, Zond is enraged because that is an outrageous price for a simple amputation. He is ready to throw hands over this, but Zofia tells him to calm down and starts trying to negotiate with Zenas. She asks him if he really wants to give her such a high price when she is Zofia the Swift. Zofia is the leader of one of the 3 gangs that run this area and Zenas is well aware of who she is, but he refuses to do work for free, especially because regeneration is so tiring. Zofia is confused since she has never heard of a healer who could regenerate limbs, and Zenas is confused as well since he didn't know other healers couldn't regenerate limbs. He trained himself to be a healer so he doesn't know what counts as normal, but that doesn't matter right now, so he asks Zofia if she wants to go through with the procedure. Zofia agrees, so Zenas sets her down on a table and gets ready to amputate the arm. He creates a magic scalpel to do it, but Zofia is a little concerned since she has never seen anything like it before. Zenas explains that it is just a blade of condensed magic that he can conjure at will. It is super sharp and completely sterile, so it's perfect for performing surgeries, but again most healers can't do that. Zenas begins the operation and uses a constant flow of healing magic to numb the area. He then chops off the infected arm and gets ready to regenerate a new one. He raises the output of his healing magic and begins reforming Zofia's arm layer by layer until it's as good as new. Zofia is amazed and grateful that Zenas regenerated her arm, so she has no complaints about his price anymore. She also says she'll start sending her injured subordinates to Zenas if he's okay with it. And as long as they are paying customers, Zenas doesn't mind. Over the next few days, Zenas has been getting a lot of patients from the Lizardmen faction, so Lily makes some tea for him to relax. Zenas thanks her for being so considerate, but he wonders why she made 3 cups instead of 2. Lily says she made one for Camilla to drink, but Zenas isn't sure she'll want to join them down here. However, Camilla apparently really likes tea. While they are taking a break, Lily asks Zenas if he knows why the Lizardmen are always getting injured so badly, and from the people he has seen so far, he believes there's a turf war going on between the different factions. And speaking of factions, it looks like one of them just broke down the door. A group of werewolves barge into the clinic, and their leader Linga declares that she is going to kill Zenas. She has been fighting the Lizardmen for days now, but no matter how many of them she injures, they always keep getting better, so she is going to their healer. First of all, Zenas doesn't work for the Lizardmen faction, and he would like to avoid violence here. But Linga has already ordered her men to kill Zenas. However, with his defensive magic, nothing they do can even move him, much less deal damage. Linga realizes she can't beat Zenas, so instead, she resorts to destroying the clinic to get rid of him. But that was a dumb idea because this is still Camilla's house too, so she won't stand for someone destroying it. As soon as the other werewolves see Camilla, they are terrified because Wraith is a deadly monster that they could never hope to defeat. Camilla fully intends to drain them of their life force for what they did, but Zenas asks her to calm down because he doesn't want anyone to die in his clinic. And as long as Linga and her men are willing to fix the damage they caused, he will forgive them. Subscribe for more.